During a House hearing in early 2026, a Texas congresswoman questioned Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem about restrictions placed on congressional oversight of immigration detention facilities. The exchange focused on a requirement that members of Congress provide 7 days advance notice before visiting facilities, despite what the congresswoman characterized as clear statutory authority, allowing immediate access. The congresswoman described visiting the Dilley Detention Center in Texas after providing the required 7-day notice. According to her account, facility officials told her that Secretary Noem had personally ordered the advance notice requirement. During that visit, she met Liam Ramos, a child who was being held at the facility. The questioning then turned to a federal court order regarding Liam's case. According to the congresswoman, a judge criticized the government's ill-conceived and incompetently implemented pursuit of daily deportation quotas and quoted the Declaration of Independence's grievances against King George III, specifically the complaint about swarms of officers to harass our people, which the judge applied to current ICE operations. Secretary Noem acknowledged the court order, but stated she disagreed with the judge's characterization. The exchange reveals tensions about congressional oversight authority and executive agency control over facility access. Watch how the questioning began.
Thank you so much. And Madam Secretary, you are almost to the end, so congratulations. I just have a couple of questions. Are you aware that the law that was written by this Congress makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to, entitled to, enter any detention?
Representative Crockett, I apologize. I have to run to vote in another committee, Secretary, and Mr. Schmidt will chair, and you will get extra 15 seconds, but I apologize for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much
Mr.
for your
Chairman.
testimony.
Appreciate it.
Are you aware that the law makes it clear that members of Congress are allowed to enter any detention facility at any point in time in which they choose to?
Yes, I'm aware of the visitation and oversight responsibility, and we work every day to try to accommodate members of Congress while taking into account the safety of those individuals that are being detained there.
Let me be clear. At any time, correct?
Yes, I understand there's litigation in this area.
No,
too,
that's not my question. I'm not asking you about litigation.
Yeah.
I'm asking you what the law is, because let me put it to you this
There's
way.
an appropriations rider that talks about
Correct,
oversight.
and appropriations are law, because you are asking us to
correct.
appropriate dollars right now for DHS, correct?
Correct.
And if we do that, you would take that as law, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is what the law states, yet somehow, myself and another colleague, Congressman Castro, we ended up giving a 7-day notice to the Dilley detention facility because I had actually already gone to El Paso before. And when I went to that facility and I asked them why it was that they were requiring me to do something that specifically my branch of government had dictated was not required, they said it was because of you. They said you were the one that said that they were not allowed to allow us entry unless we gave a 7 days heads up. Is that true?
Yeah. The law specifically states oversight and visitations, and we are working to facilitate those. And we're at that time working to
did you give the instruction that members must give a 7 days heads up or not?
We had a policy in place that allowed us to get
Were you the one that ordered that policy?
I have a responsibility for ensuring everybody in that facility is going to be safe, and that I have adequate
no, but that's not my question, because the
conduct
problem,
a tour
let me tell you why we need to, reclaiming my time. The reason that I'm talking to you about this policy, and you're talking to me about safety, is because I did go into the Dilley detention facility. And let me tell you, they're not safe. This is why we need to conduct oversight, because your people continue. In fact, you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else. That is your record right now. So I don't expect that y'all are going to be the ones that are going to be best to keep them safe. This is why we are supposed to conduct oversight and not wait for you to give permission. In fact, after I left the Dilley facility, we were informed of a measles outbreak that was taking place in that facility. And another question I have, are you the one that ordered it to be reopened, because that facility was closed under Joe Biden?
Those facilities were opened with the new administration. I'd have to look
Okay,
and
you're
see
part
if
of the
that
new
was-
administration. Were you the one that ordered it to be open is my question.
I would have to see when it was opened because I wasn't sworn in until 5 days after
Okay,
the
well,
president was
it
in
was
office.
reopened in
So I
March.
would have to look at
It
when.
was reopened in March of last year.
Well, then I'm sure that that contract would have been renewed while I was secretary.
Speaking of contracts, as I have, actually, you know what, let me continue on this line of y'all breaking the law. Are you familiar with a child by the name of Liam Ramos?
I am.
All right, so Liam was at this Dilley facility, and it just so happened that we had put in our 7 days notice, and y'all had grabbed him 6 days prior to our visit. So we were able to go and visit Liam. Are you aware of the court order that came down that released Liam from custody?
I am.
And are you aware that the judge said the case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children?
The legal authority for congressional access to detention facilities comes from appropriations language included in annual spending bills. According to the Congresswoman's characterization, this language grants members of Congress the right to visit detention facilities at any time, without advance notice. Secretary Noem's response acknowledged visitation and oversight responsibility, but emphasized accommodating members while taking into account the safety of those individuals. This suggests DHS's position. Congressional access is permitted, but can be managed through advance notice requirements for operational and security reasons. The dispute centers on whether the appropriations language, which the Congresswoman asserted grants immediate access, supersedes agency policies requiring advance notice. Noem stated, "There's litigation in this area," suggesting the question of congressional access parameters is being contested in court. The Congresswoman's statement that facility officials told her Secretary Noem was the one that said that they were not allowed to allow us entry unless we gave a 7 days heads up, represents a specific factual claim about the chain of command for the policy. Noem acknowledged having a policy in place and being responsible for facility safety, but did not explicitly confirm or deny personally ordering the 7-day requirement. The Dilley Detention Center, located in Dilley, Texas, was operated under the Biden administration, but closed and later reopened. According to the Congresswoman, it reopened in March 2025, shortly after Trump's inauguration in January 2025. Noem stated she wasn't sworn in until 5 days after it was reopened in March, but acknowledged the contract would have been renewed during her tenure as secretary. The Congresswoman's claim that you have lost more lives in detention than anybody else represents an assertion about fatalities in ICE custody during Noem's tenure. ICE is required to report deaths in custody to Congress. According to ICE data, detention facility deaths fluctuate year to year based on multiple factors, including facility conditions, medical care availability, and detainee health status. The reference to a measles outbreak at Dilley after the Congresswoman's visit raises public health concerns. Detention facilities can be vulnerable to infectious disease outbreaks due to congregate settings. CDC guidelines recommend specific protocols for managing measles in detention settings. The Liam Ramos case, which the Congresswoman referenced, involved a child detained at Dilley who was later released pursuant to a federal court order. The judge's statement that the case has its genesis in an ill-conceived and incompetently implemented government pursuit of daily deportation quotas, apparently even if it requires traumatizing children, represents a judicial finding about the government's actions in this specific case. The judge's additional statement that courts regularly send undocumented people to prison and order them deported but do so by proper legal procedures suggests the criticism was not about deportation policy itself, but about procedural compliance and treatment of children during enforcement operations. The Congresswoman's question about whether Noem has a law degree and Noem's confirmation that she does not preceded the Congresswoman's point about judicial authority. Regardless of personal disagreements with court orders, executive officials are bound to follow them or appeal through proper channels. Watch how the Congresswoman concluded with the court's invocation of the Declaration of Independence.
This court and others regularly send undocumented people to prison and orders them deported, but do so by proper legal procedures. Are you aware of that?
Yes, and I would disagree with the judge on several
I'm
points
sure you would,
in
but can
there.
you tell me whether or not
That
you have a law degree?
Father chose to
Can you tell me whether or not you have a law degree?
If I have what?
A law degree.
No, I do not have a law
Okay,
degree.
and you do understand, because I can go through a bunch of court cases and orders that I disagree with from the Supreme Court, that ultimately, that is the order of the court. That is what you follow, and if you have an issue, you appeal it up, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. The court went on to say, apparent also is the government's ignorance of an American historical document called the Declaration of Independence. 33-year-old Thomas Jefferson enumerated grievances against a would-be authoritarian king over his nascent nation. Among others were, he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us. He has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. Are you aware that he wrote that? Do you know that he was writing about ICE that falls under you?
The judge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I will yield, but I do have two UCs. The first UC is ICE training was slashed, records show corroborating whistleblower claims from the Washington Post on yesterday.
Without objection.
The second one is FEMA's response to Texas flood slowed by Noem's cost controls. This is out of CNN from July 10th of 2025.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
I would ask unanimous consent to put in the record a document from DHS.gov titled "Illegal Alien with More Than 30 Prior Arrests Fatally Stabs Woman at Virginia Bus Stop. ICE requests Virginia authorities not release this public safety threat." Without objection. Is this a single one or is this multiple? Single. Okay. And also would ask unanimous.
The federal judge's decision to quote the Declaration of Independence, specifically grievances against King George III, about swarms of officers to harass our people, and apply it to contemporary ICE operations, represents a striking rhetorical choice in a judicial opinion. Judges occasionally reference historical documents to provide constitutional or philosophical context for their rulings. The specific grievances the judge quoted include: he has sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people. He has excited domestic insurrection among us, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, and he has kept us among, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislators. These complaints from the Declaration concerned British colonial governance practices that the American revolutionaries found oppressive. By stating the judge was writing about ICE that falls under you, the Congresswoman characterized the court as drawing a parallel between 18th century British practices and current immigration enforcement operations. This represents the judge's legal and historical analysis in this specific case, not a general judicial consensus about ICE operations. Secretary Noem's brief acknowledgement, yes, did not elaborate on whether she agreed with the judge's historical comparison or whether DHS planned to appeal the ruling or modify enforcement practices in response. The Congresswoman submitted 2 articles for the congressional record via unanimous consent: a Washington Post article about ICE training being slashed, corroborating whistleblower claims, and a CNN article from July 10, 2025, about FEMA's response to Texas floods being slowed by what CNN characterized as Noem's cost controls. A Republican member then submitted a DHS document about an individual with more than 30 prior arrests who fatally stabs woman at Virginia bus stop, noting that ICE had requested Virginia authorities not release this person. This represents the opposing perspective often cited by immigration enforcement supporters, that sanctuary policies or non-cooperation with ICE can result in preventable crimes. The exchange of unanimous consent documents reflects the partisan divide on immigration enforcement. Democrats highlighting enforcement problems, safety issues, and constitutional concerns. Republicans highlighting crimes committed by individuals who were not detained or deported. The hearing revealed fundamental tensions about congressional oversight of immigration detention facilities. The Congresswoman asserted clear statutory authority for immediate access. Secretary Noem implemented a 7-day advance notice requirement she characterized as necessary for safety and operational management. The Liam Ramos case, which resulted in a federal court order criticizing the government's pursuit of daily deportation quotas and invoking the Declaration of Independence to describe ICE operations, represents one judge's findings in a specific case. Whether this judicial criticism reflects broader problems with enforcement practices would require examining multiple court decisions and detention facility conditions. The Congresswoman's allegations, measles outbreaks, more deaths in detention than under previous administrations, and violations of congressional access rights, represent verifiable claims that oversight investigations could confirm or refute. Secretary Noem's responses acknowledged policies exist, but disputed characterizations and emphasized safety and operational concerns. If coverage of congressional oversight matters to you, consider subscribing.